Hey guys, it has been a while. Let's talk about Bitcoin in the market and why I think we are going higher and haven't topped yet. Just a quick review going back to 2024. We had a local top here, a couple more taps of that up here. There were a lot of loud voices saying, "Oh, I think that's a wrap. Good game. See you guys later." I don't think that there was anything to me pointing to a top here. No indicators were hot. I think that, honestly, this was just early ETF exuberance putting us above the previous all time high early, and we had no business being up here. It was just a super bullish catalyst. People got stoked, and then kind of the air got let out of the balloon here. Holding through this is honestly super easy. It was just boring. Like, there was no, to me, no existential threat. It was just like almost a year of chop, and that sucked, but it is what it is, right? So then we have, I'm gonna clean this up a little bit. We've got these tops up here. I don't think those were the top either. There were absolutely zero technical indicators suggesting those were tops. We were in a super high interest rate regime, like fairly, like just tight conditions for Bitcoin to rip. I think, again, this was similar to the ETF thing, although just like very bullish sentiment going into like Trump getting elected. We just ripped up here. You had Michael Saylor buying a bunch all the way throughout here to like really keep this inflated up here. And then everything went to absolute shit. So what happened here is we were getting a ton of really terrible news, like the DeepSeek stuff, some like early tariff stuff. Just I forgot all the. It was just basically like waves crashing onto a beach of bad news, and we weren't going down from like this sort of range, but we were getting a ton of really, really, really good regulatory news, and we also weren't going up. So we're kind of just stuck in this limbo where there's like too much opportunity to break down, but there just weren't the right conditions to like keep going, right? So what did end up happening is all that bad news kind of compounded a little bit. The chart was quote unquote heavy. You kind of had a regime where if you look at like price to earnings in the S&P, which Bitcoin is super correlated to, you had valuations in a lot of like tech stocks and other companies where like at those valuations, if you take like a forward look using like historical data, there's like room for like a little bit of upside, but after a couple of back-to-back like 20% years, all signs pointed to things needed to cool off a little bit. So you could say it was kind of in the charts to have a dump in TradFi markets and obviously crypto because it's correlated, especially this like institutional Bitcoin bid and like the size of this market these days. So we started to drift down a little bit, and then somewhere in here, Trump basically unleashed a completely novel, unprecedented, horrific, nonstop, sustained tariff mania, tariff palooza onto the global economy. And he didn't take his thumb off the scale for months. And eventually, what happened is enough of the right people got in his ear, and they got loud enough to where they said probably something like, hey man, like, we get it, you're doing you've got like a mandate to like shake stuff up. Just a heads up, like, you can undo a lot of this if you walk stuff back or meet your goals, but what you can't really undo is unbreak the bond market, and you are teetering on the edge of that, and that is just you just can't walk that back. It's like pulverizing like a vase into dust. It's not a couple cracks you can glue together. It's just it's like pulverizing into dust and throwing it into a river. Like, that shit's gone. And he started to walk stuff back in a relatively humiliating way. At least that's my read on it. He was basically begging China on the timeline to like talk to him, and we, boy who cried wolf it, and the markets are like, okay, we have enough certainty here to like rip this back, and up we went. Fartcoin, which has been kind of the risk beta on the way down and up, led the way. Bitcoin followed, and we've just absolutely ripped. So where does that leave us today? We basically, let me go to like a 4 hour here. I think everybody and their mom has driven or drawn like some permutation of this trend line. Like, you can take it from different spots, whatever. And then there's also like kind of some like moving averages in here too. There's probably a couple, blah, blah, blah. And we broke down below this, and people started to shit their pants again. And I get that. If you have PTSD or like on leverage or are like scalping in and out, this is alarming. But if you are just kind of like low and slowing majors and, like to buy low and then wait and sell at good enough highs, and you're not needing to like protect like an over levered position, this isn't really too alarming, at least not to me. Why? We aren't hot on any sort of cyclical indicators. The monthly looks really good, RSI looks good, blah, blah, blah. Like, nothing is pinging like dangerous here. And I'm relying on something right now as Confluence that is an absolute meme, but like kind of compelling. And it's the global money supply 10 or 12 week pulled up chart. I think this is Julian Biddle, J Bits, whatever his nickname is. This is, and at least I think he came up with this. And this is so clean, you could like eat an egg, like a fried egg off of it. I will say this, like, if you look at this as a model, all models break eventually. Sometimes they break to the downside, sometimes they hold up for super long, and sometimes they break to the upside, right? Like, worth considering. Again, like, this is looked at as a meme, and I will admit that, like, I think this is great, and I also think, like, some of the dumbest people in the space are riding this hard, just calling a spade, but in confluence with everything else I'm looking at, like, I'm not fading this, and I am a kind of proponent of the joyful June thesis. And so if you look at this on a chart, it looks like this. Let me get this a little fixed up here for y'all. Let me go to the daily. It's way easier to look at this. So bear with me for a moment. So like, this isn't perfect, but I'm gonna call that right there close enough. So yeah, so this is pretty clean, right? Just gonna draw like a very sloppy line of best fit here. So if you go back in time, it's not a perfect correlation. I think you could make an excuse that crypto is like a much smaller market, a lot more liquid, a lot more esoteric, especially last bear when the whole space kind of went to zero post FTX. But like, this has held up for several years, and I'm throwing that in good enough territory. It's simple, it's easy to understand, it's just logical. And this is pointing to higher through like August. Let me just pull this back here. So I think a mistake you could make with this, and what I wouldn't want to do, is like, I wouldn't want to like read into this correlation in a low time frame way where you're saying like, oh, we've got like, you know, a dip here or a dip here, so I'm gonna like sell that. I think you just look at the general trend here. For example, like, you know, this like topped here and then crypto kind of like ripped back because I think this is where like Saylor blew the rest of his load. But I think this just generally points higher through like August. I think that if you are, and you know, we're not even at the end of this. This just kind of cuts off here and is going to keep developing. I think that if you're cautious and know that there are a lot of people watching this, the move, quote unquote, that I'm looking to do for myself is like front run it eventually rolling over by anywhere from a couple days to a couple weeks to like maybe a month or two, depending on what your portfolio and goals are. Like that's up to you. But me personally, like, I think this is painting like a pretty rosy picture through at least mid to late June, maybe through July, maybe into August. I don't know. I still think we probably get some sort of a summer lull, but like, I don't know that. So those are kind of my thoughts. I am long. I'm not going to get cute and try to like scalp in and out and, you know, improve my bags or position here. I'm just going to stay long. I think there is a possibility if we do get a dip, it's here in early June, probably this week. Like I could see, you know, something like, you know, maybe even something like that or whatever, you know, and then June kind of like rips higher into July. No exact guesses there. And even this model, like if you do want to mess around with it a little bit, I think there's a version of this that's not like 10 week, but or 12, but a 10. And then that kind of like really dovetails this, but then like, you know, the bottom's a little askew. So, you know, take your pick there. But yeah, that's what I've got. TLDR, I'm long. I'm in large cap memes, got some Bitcoin, got some ETH, got some Sol. Just to keep myself like entertained, I got into some group chats and I've been trenching a lot for the last 2 months with like a very, 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 very limited size just to learn that space. Generally avoided that stuff because I think it's really extractive and minus EV, and I've learned a lot. I could make a whole video about that. I could kind of like put all the lessons I've learned in there in terms of like how to maximize your odds, or at least lessen the amount of money you lose and how quickly you lose it. I also did a CTO of a meme coin called Gatatui. And I've never CTO'd a coin before. It was a ton of fun, still is a ton of fun. I learned a lot about that too, from the inside out. So if you guys want to see either a video on how to navigate the trenches or what it's like to CTO coin and some like lessons learned from that, if you ever want to get some buddies together and try that, I can make either of those videos. Please let me know in the comments if you're interested in that. And yeah, thanks for listening. Been a while. If you made it through this whole ramble, you might be as crazy as I am, but appreciate you guys. Good luck out there.